I'm J.R. Church. Welcome to today's analysis of the news. Well, it's election day in Jerusalem and Israel. It's 10 o'clock at night as of 2 o'clock this afternoon here in Oklahoma City. And we do not have any definitive word yet on the election. We were thinking if we waited long enough, by 10 o'clock we should have some word. Here's from the Jerusalem Post just a few moments ago. With voting stations officially closed, exit polls at 10 p.m. suggest that Kadima would win the general elections on Tuesday. However, due to the dramatic rise in support of the Likud, that's Benjamin Netanyahu's party, and Israel Beitenu, it seems that Likud chairman Benjamin Netanyahu would have a better chance than Kadima, head of the Kadima head, Tzipi Livni, in forming the next coalition government. You know, she was given the opportunity last September, and she was unable through October and November and into early December to form a coalition government. Therefore, they had to call for general elections. So they seem to be in a locked mode there in Israel, and nobody knows exactly what's going to happen. Well, the Channel 1 poll showed Kadima winning 30 mandates and Likud trailing closely behind with 28 seats. Israel Beitenu, I don't know who he is, but he's some politician. He earned 14 mandates, and Labor was slated to get 13 seats. So the Labor Party, the one that was in power under Ariel Sharon until he established the Kadima Party, is trailing with the least amount of seats. Once the most popular political party in Israel, now the least popular. A Channel 2 poll suggested Kadima with 29 and Likud with 27. Channel 10 had the same pattern with Kadima with 30 mandates, Likud with 28 seats, and Israel Beitenu with 15 mandates and Labor with 13. In other words, they're all running just about the same. Once the final results of the election are known, President Shimon Peres will begin a round of consultations with party leaders to hear who they are recommending for prime minister. In the past, the task of forming a coalition has been given to the head of the largest party. But election legislation gives Peres wide leeway. He can grant the first opportunity to the party leader whom he judges to have the best chance in forming a government, even if that party did not earn the most mandates in the election. Now, that is saying that it's possible that Peres could turn to Benjamin Netanyahu, even though he missed getting the most by 2 mandates or 2 seats. Well, I don't think Peres likes Netanyahu all that much. Peres is a devout liberal and Netanyahu is a conservative. Netanyahu is more warlike, and Peres for a long time has said we've got to have a Palestinian state. Of course, Peres's reasons for that is that if the Palestinians don't have their own state, they're going to be voting in Israeli elections. And they could win the majority one of these days and dissolve the government and form a new government called Palestine. Oh, yes, it's possible. Therefore, the Jews do not want the Palestinians voting in their elections. That's why they want the Palestinians to have their own little thing going, their own country, so that they can vote in their own elections and leave Israel alone. And this would ensure the sovereignty of Israel and, shall we say, the perpetuity of the state. I can tell you this. The Palestinians have every goal, every thought, every desire of completely destroying Israel. This may be the reason why Hamas doesn't want to make peace with Israel. The Palestinians, for example, have dragged their feet. Even under Yasser Arafat, he said no. You remember when he was offered everything on a silver platter? It's because they do not want to recognize the sovereignty of Israel. They want to destroy Israel. Well, from the Haaretz.com comes this interesting bit of news. Shalit, that's Gilad Shalit, you remember, the young Israeli soldier that was kidnapped by the Hamas a couple of years ago. The Shalit deal hinges on Israel's release of 4 terrorists, a deal for the release of the abducted Israeli soldier Gilad Shalit hinges on a dispute between Israel and the Hamas over 4 Palestinian prisoners whom Israel refuses to free. 2 pan-Arab newspapers reported this on Monday, yesterday. Israel has agreed, however, to release all the other prisoners Hamas is demanding in return for Shalit. Why not these 4? The newspapers named the 4 as Abdullah Barghouti, Ibrahim Hamad, and Abbas Saeed, all Hamas men, and then Ahmed Saadat, the leader of the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine. Now, each of the prisoners was behind a string of terror attacks. Saeed was the mastermind of the massacre at the Park Hotel in Netanya on Passover in the year 2002, in which 29 civilians were killed. No wonder Israel doesn't want to release him. In fact, I cannot imagine why Israel still has him alive. Why don't they just send him to the electric chair or the Husgal, whatever it is they use for executing people? He deserved to be executed. Abdullah Barghouti, a relative of jailed Fatah leader Marwan Barghouti, prepared the bomb belts and devices used in terror attacks. Well, no wonder Israel doesn't want to release him either. These included the bombings in Jerusalem and the Sbarro Pizza Parlor, the Moment Cafe and the cafeteria at the Hebrew University, as well as the suicide attack at the Sheffield Snooker Hall in Rishon LeZion. So you can see why Israel does not want to let these criminals, these murderers of scores of people, to go free. And again, my question is, why are they still alive? Here's something very interesting. United States taxpayers risk $9.7 trillion on the bailout programs. From Bloomberg News, the stimulus package of the U.S. Congress is completing would raise the government's commitment to solve the financial crisis to $9.7 trillion, enough to pay off more than 90% of the nation's home mortgages. The Federal Reserve, Treasury Department, and Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation have lent or spent almost $3 trillion over the past 2 years and pledged up to $5.7 trillion more. According to Senator Byron Dorgan, a North Dakota Democrat, said, quote, "We've seen money go out the back door of this government unlike any time in the history of our country." He said, "Nobody knows what went out of the Federal Reserve Board, to whom or for what purpose, how much from the FDIC, how much from TARP, when, and why." Well, these pledges, amounting to almost 2/3 of the value of everything produced in the United States last year, are intended to rescue the financial system after credit markets seized up some 18 months ago. The worst financial crisis in 2 generations has erased $14.5 trillion, or 33% of the value of the world's companies. The world's, not the U.S. companies, the world's companies, since September 15th. Brought down Bear Stearns companies, Lehman Brothers Holdings Incorporated, and led to the takeover of Merrill Lynch and Company by Bank of America Corporation. Listen to this. The $9.7 trillion in pledges would be enough to send $1,430 to every man, woman, and child alive in the world. Yeah, you heard me correct. $1,430 to every person in the world, not just the United States. Oh, no. If it were the United States, it would be a lot more than that. But $1,430 to every person breathing on the planet. Well, it's 13 times what the U.S. has spent on the war so far in Iraq and Afghanistan. My, somebody is stealing us blind. But you know what? The Bible tells us that such things would happen as the tribulation period neared. And Jesus said, when you see these things begin to come to pass, look up. Lift up your heads, for your redemption draweth nigh. I'm J.R. Church. We'll see you again tomorrow with our analysis of the news.